Monster Hunter Wilds is upon us, and there's plenty to know going in. That's, of course, what we at gameranx are here for. Hi, folks, it's Falcon, and today, 10 things you need to know about Monster Hunter Wilds. Starting off with number 10, this is truly an open world Monster Hunter. This is the big one. It's something fans of the series have waited for a long time now. They've finally done it. You have seamless travel between the hunting village and the field without any loading screens. That's right, the village is just a part of the same big map now, and every major region is connected, so you can travel from one region to the next just by walking there, which is actually a first for the series. These regions are really big too, about 2 to 3 times bigger than the locations in Monster Hunter World. Look at the map for the starting zone. The Windward Plains, that place is gigantic. Much more natural looking, open environments. They're mixed in with the more narrow, Monster Hunter looking paths and side tunnels. Just to be clear, it's not like Breath of the Wild or anything. You can't literally go everywhere, and from the sound of things, the regions are separated by a loading screen, so you can't seamlessly travel between absolutely every area, but each region will have at least one main camp, along with a lot of smaller villages dotted around the map, so kind of open zone, kind of open world. Much more open world than it was before, though. You can't just climb everywhere either. It is a lot bigger in scale, but it's the same Monster Hunter at its core, so your movement is a little limited by terrain. It's pretty much identical to Monster Hunter World. Unfortunately, it doesn't incorporate some of the fancier movement options from Rise, which is actually something I kind of wanted from it, but it does incorporate at least a little more of the verticality, so by design these locations are going to feel right at home to Monster Hunter World veterans. So far, the locations we know about are, like I said, the Windward Plains, then there's the Scarlet Forest, the Oil Well Basin, and the Ice Shard Cliffs, all with their own unique monsters and challenges to navigate. As per the developers, the game is trying to move away from the old excursion model where you select a mission off the quest board, go on a hunt, and then come back into town. They want to encourage players to explore and more deeply engage with everything else the game has to offer. There's a whole lot going on in the open world too. There's changing weather patterns that can affect monster behavior. There's camps that act as fast travel points, but this time they can actually be destroyed and require upkeep to make them functional. And to make getting around the maps easier, they finally introduced a fully 3D map that looks a lot more functional than the old 2D maps that got kind of confusing, especially when things did get vertical. It doesn't make much of a difference for the mostly flat Windward Plains map, but I'll bet it'll be useful for later areas that are a lot more complicated and vertical, like the Ice Shard Cliffs in particular. I think those are going to be a little confusing, so a 3D map should help out quite a bit. At number 9 is the new mount. Like I said, there are some things from Rise that are coming over, and they're taking a cue from that. There's a dedicated mount in Wilds, a lizard-like thing called a secret. I know, very novel name, but whatever. It can be used to quickly travel around. It assists in combat. It's generally just helpful to have around. One unique quirk of these things is they automatically travel towards your objective, so you just jump on its back and it'll immediately travel to wherever you need to go. It's possible to take control and go wherever you want, but by default, it's following the trail.
They're fast, too.
Just from playing the beta, seems pretty handy. Being able to summon it and automatically mount up without really having to do a lot is really useful in the middle of a fight, and as you'd expect, you can perform a special dismount attack, and that can be pretty devastating if it's timed right. There's one more function these things have, but I'm saving that for its own entry because this last thing is a real game changer. So at number 8, you can now carry a secondary weapon. Seriously. For the first time in this series, you can bring another weapon with you. It's stored in the secret, which is, the big thing. You see why I saved it for its own point? And you can swap between your primary and secondary weapons at any time while you're riding the secret. No more having to go back to town to get that weapon you needed for a specific hunt. Now you bring 2 weapons with you and you switch between them. Cannot be understated how big of a deal this is in Monster Hunter. Now there's a reason to focus on more than one weapon type because you might actually get the chance to use something different once in a while. Bringing a close range weapon and a projectile or something might not necessarily be the most earth-shaking thing. You might have something light, might have something heavy, doesn't really matter. But having the option is massively liberating. I know it sounds super basic, but for Monster Hunter, it's legitimately massive. Still have to head back to base if you want to swap armor out though, but as long as you have the mount, you can have 2 weapons instead of 1, which is great. And number 7 is focus mode. So combat feels pretty different on account of a new mechanic called focus mode. It's sort of like aiming in a third-person shooter, only now you can do it with everything including melee weapons. Sounds bizarre, I know. Kinda is, actually, but it works surprisingly well. The idea here is that you can more easily target monster weak points using focus mode and directly aiming at certain points on a monster. You'll attack wherever you're aiming on the reticle, and while in this mode, you always face the same direction as the camera, and when you attack, you're hitting what you're aiming. You can also guard in whatever direction you're aiming to, so it's easier to defend against certain attacks. Wounds play a key part in this whole thing. When you attack a monster, you generate wounds, which are highlighted when you're in focus mode. You direct your attacks against those spots to seriously damage a monster. There's also new focus strikes, which are special attacks that are just for focus mode, as you might have guessed. But they can deal massive damage against weak points on monsters, like breaking weak points or destroying wounds can stun the monster and make them vulnerable for a while. Focus mode is a big question mark at the moment, though. I'm not sure if it's going to completely change how people play Wilds, or is it maybe something you do once in a while. I'm not sure. It is not necessarily something you have to do the whole time. From my time with the beta, it did seem useful, but maybe a little situational. But it's also going to need time to fully assess. It's interesting, but I hope it doesn't completely upend how combat works in Wilds. I do like Monster Hunter's combat. Obviously, I think we all do. That's why we're here. At number 6, there's entire herds of monsters now. The maps may be bigger, but they're definitely not empty. In Wilds, monsters aren't necessarily solitary creatures. Sometimes they come in entire packs with their own alphas, who are especially rough. In this game, major hunts aren't always just a one-on-one affair. Now, sometimes critters bring entire posses along with them. This could easily be overwhelming because monsters don't just fight well, they can use certain herd tactics to combat you. But there's also tools to separate monsters from the pack, like huge dung piles that you can shoot at monsters, which cause all the other nearby ones to flee because the one is now covered in crap. Get it? That's not the only thing that's going to make monsters seem more formidable in Wilds. According to the developers, overall monsters are going to have more health and a higher flinch than in World. They don't want to make the fights more tedious, so I think your player character is also a lot stronger now, so I guess they're evening the playing field there a little. I don't know. We're going to see exactly how that works out. At number 5 is the weapons. All 14 weapons from World are back. Nothing new, just all the same stuff we got last time. Every weapon has been given a once-over by the design team. They do feel new. They're nice looking. A lot of the weapons have been seriously reworked, so they're more complex looking than ever. Tons of combos, special abilities, unique gimmicks. It does make them more fun to use with more overall depth. Just from playing around with the weapons in the beta, they feel a little faster than they used to. Combat definitely faster in Wilds than in World, but not quite as speedy as Rise. It's sort of a middle ground where weapons still feel powerful and heavy, but you're a little more responsible overall. The Slinger is back, of course, and it can do everything it could before, but with an awesome new ability where it can grab things from the environment from far away, so you can grab healing bugs without having to get close or grab pods from more far away, and start shooting immediately. I said shart there. I'm leaving that one in. I said shart. Shart is a funny word. Hope the editor leaves that one in. What was I saying? Besides shart. Oh yeah, you can grab healing bugs and pods and stuff from far away and start shooting immediately. Start shooting right away. You know what I was trying to say. Just streamlines the process of loading up ammo into the Slinger, and it makes it a lot easier to use in the heat of battle. Right back on track, Falcon. Good work. On top of the other combat mechanics I've already covered, there's a few more, like Power Clash. which happens when you block certain attacks. There's basically a power struggle like between the player and the monster. There's also offset attacks, which can happen when you hit a monster as it's attacking. It's risky, but if you hit them at the right time, it'll knock them off balance and it'll leave them open to a powerful counterattack. Good stuff. And number 4, let's talk a little bit about 4-player co-op here. So for the most part, multiplayer works pretty much the same as in World. You can still call for help using an SOS flare and form groups of up to 4 players simultaneously. The one big change is that the SOS flare can now be used offline, which calls in 3 NPC hunters to help you fill out the roster. Obviously, these guys they're not as good as a real person per se, but it's a welcome option either way. I don't see the servers going down anytime soon. I mean, World still has active multiplayer, but this sort of future-proofing is always something I would like to see, obviously. Someday, certain multiplayer-focused hunts will be rendered impossible, or at least mostly impossible for normal people in World, but in Wilds, even when the player base has moved on, you'll still be able to experience everything in the game. Maybe they should patch this into World, just for the sake of it, though. Just saying. And number 3, armor is no longer gender locked. This is one that people have been requesting for a really long time now. They finally made it so your character can just wear whatever armor you want. What's cool about this game is they're not changing how armor works in any way. They're just making it so that regardless of what 3D model you choose at the beginning of the game, you can just equip it however you want. It's no longer gender specific. So there's 2 versions of every armor. They're not like censoring the game or anything like that. They're just giving the player more options, and that's good. And number 2, broken parts auto loot now. Might sound small, but seriously, thank you like a ton to Capcom for this one. I can't stress this enough. There's nothing more frustrating in the old games than managing to break a specific part that you kind of desperately need for a piece of armor, only you lose track of it. You could cut off a tail, you kill the monster, try to rush back and carve it before the end of the mission timer runs out. You might end up in the wrong direction and you get nothing. It's awful. This is a much more forgiving option. Like, you go through the trouble of breaking the monster horn, why not just get the material? It does streamline the game, yes, and sometimes people complain about streamlining, but I'm gonna argue this is streamlining in a very good way. Like, old school fans might decry stuff like this as trying to appeal to casuals, but I don't care. Give me the loot. It's as far as I'm concerned, the right thing to do. Do good by the Monster Hunter fans that have shit to do. You know, thank you, Capcom. Thank you for doing this seriously. And finally, at number 1, Monster Hunter Wilds release date sure closing in. It's officially releasing on February 28th for the PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, both on Steam and the Epic Games Store. Also, it is not coming to the PS4. It's current gen systems only. Also, no Switch, but it's rumored that it's coming to the Switch too. We don't know that's happening for sure. Now, if you're interested in getting the game on PC, be sure to check out the system requirements and download the benchmark tool. If this game is a beast, no pun intended, the system requirements might not look bad on paper, but I mean, the recommended settings are they're modest sounding with the 2060 Super to get the game running at 1080p on medium settings, but that's with frame gen turned on, and AMD's version that's compatible with the lower powered GPUs, making frame gen a requirement to get decent FPS. It makes me a little worried about how the game is going to perform on launch day. I'll say the beta didn't fill me with a ton of confidence in terms of performance. Capcom hasn't really been one for launching games in a state lately, so hopefully they get that performance under control, because pretty much everything else about Wilds seems pretty bang on, amazing, good stuff. So yeah, did that wet your whistle? I sure hope so. Leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. Don't forget to enable the notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter and book me on Cameo at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.